Hello and welcome everyone to Be the Hero, dedicated to helping you become a person of action so you can find your passion and become the hero of your own story. Let's get started. I think it's safe to say that we've all suffered from a lack of self-confidence at some point in our lives. Whether it's starting a new job or a new school, or maybe it's public speaking, or maybe we just have a lack of self-confidence in social situations. A poor self-image can have a serious impact on our lives, especially when it comes to being the hero of our own story. If we lack self-confidence, it could prevent us from reaching our full potential and doing great things in our lives. So today I wanted to give you 5 suggestions for improving your self-confidence. The first suggestion that I have for you is to stop comparing yourself to others. Now I know that is easier said than done because we all do it. But you have to remember that you're not supposed to be like anybody else. You are exclusively you. Your viewpoints, your gifts, your experiences are exclusively yours. And there's no one else who can be you. You are unique and you should celebrate that. The only person that you should compare yourself to is you and who you were yesterday. The problem that we run into when we compare ourselves to others is when you compare yourself to someone else, you're comparing yourself to choices, experiences, and skills that you may not have. You can't compare yourself to that when you don't share those attributes. That would be like comparing yourself to an Olympic runner if you just started jogging yesterday. You don't have the skills that Olympic runner has. You don't have the mindset that he has yet. You don't have the years of experience that Olympic runner has. And so, of course, if you compare yourself to that person, you're going to come up significantly short. And therein lies the problem. You are comparing yourself to someone who has dedicated their life to a craft when you're just starting out. If you truly want to benefit from the knowledge of that Olympic runner, you're not going to benefit by comparing yourself to them, but what you can do is learn from them. Find out what they did to get to that point. Find out what they do in the morning when they wake up. Find out their routines, and then work your way up to their level. If you just started jogging yesterday, unless you're an absolute phenom, you're not going to run a 4-minute mile tomorrow. But what you can do is look at those individuals that do run the 4-minute mile and find out what they do. And little by little, increment by increment, start working your way up. And if you do it that way, you will build self-confidence, not by comparing yourself, but by using those individuals for inspiration. So again, don't compare yourself to others. The only person you need to compare yourself to is you yesterday. And if you learned something today, if you grew, if you did something that you hadn't done yesterday, then you've improved and you're ahead of the game. And if you keep that mindset, you'll be able to build self-confidence through those small wins on a daily basis. All right, now that we have stopped comparing ourselves to others, it's time to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. And that's my second suggestion for you today. You have to do things that are outside your comfort zone. If you're comfortable where you are, then you're not growing and you're not pushing yourself. And you will never become a hero by staying at home where it's warm and cozy. You have to put yourself out there. You have to look for a challenge and attack it. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and do something dangerous. I'm not telling you that you have to put yourself into some type of life-threatening situation. But what I am saying is that you need to stretch yourself beyond your current limits. And pushing ourselves beyond our limits is one of the most difficult things for humans to do. We like it when things are quote-unquote normal and predictable. And we like it when we know what's going to happen when we wake up in the morning. We like routines. And if we are pushing ourselves, then those routines and those comfortable situations get interrupted. And when those interruptions come, we usually have two responses. Either we're going to fight it and resist it, or we're going to run away from it. And either one is equally as damaging to our self-confidence. Now, when I talk about stepping outside your comfort zone, I have to be very careful how I articulate this, because some people have a tendency to overdo when they want to push themselves. If you are like I was in the past, and maybe you had a fear of public speaking, let's say, and you want to push yourself beyond your current limits of being able to talk to a close circle of friends, the next step for you to step out of your comfort zone should not be to step on a stage in front of 80,000 people and try to give a speech. That's a little bit too much, too fast. I think you would agree. But what you might do is volunteer at work, maybe to read the morning announcements to the rest of the faculty, maybe to give a presentation on the current budget within the facility, whatever your job might be. Maybe you need to give a discussion on that in a closed, more intimate setting with maybe 10 people or less. That is incremental change. And when you have incremental change like that, you have the ability to build on small wins. It's like going, down the field when you're playing football. Most of the time, we're not throwing long bombs all day long. What do? We take a few yards at a time. And that's the way you should approach your challenges. If you have a fear of public speaking, you're not going to throw a long bomb and hope to win the Super Bowl by jumping on stage in front of 80,000 people. But what you could do is get that first down by stepping in front of, 5 members of the administration team and giving them a presentation. Or stepping in front of 15 people and giving the morning announcements. Those types of situations, especially when you are successful in them, build confidence incrementally. And once you've done that for a while, then you can move to a bigger audience where maybe you're giving a presentation in a regional setting. But it's incremental change, incremental steps that will allow you to build your self-confidence and slowly stretch beyond your current limits. Now, along the same vein of pushing yourself beyond your current limits, the third area that I would suggest to you to look at when we talk about improving our self-confidence is through working out and exercise. See, nothing does more for your self-confidence than exercising on a regular basis. When you exercise, you feel better, you look better, and you're more confident as a result. In doing some research before this recording, I found that somewhere between 40 and 46% of both men and women were unhappy with their bodies and had a poor self-image. And I can guarantee you that on some level, that dislike for the way they look, that dislike for their body, and that poor self-image wreaks havoc on their self-confidence. There are things that they aren't doing, places they aren't going, activities that they are not participating in because they lack the self-confidence to do so because of the self-image that they have and because they are unhappy with the way their body looks. But I want you to know that working out goes beyond just the way that you look. I can tell you from personal experience that there is something to be said for the excitement and the increase in self-worth and self-value and belief in oneself once you've started working out on a regular basis and you see gains either in the gym or when you run, and you see losses in the amount of inches and the weight. Those things go beyond the physical appearance. Those things strengthen your self-worth. And when you can change the way you look on the outside, that will change how you feel about yourself on the inside. And it is that feeling or the way you feel on the inside that is going to be the most powerful catalyst for a change in your self-confidence. I think the change in the way your body looks is merely a byproduct of the change that's internal. And I really believe that the change internally is more important than the change externally. So I would recommend to you that if you want to start to improve your self-confidence, no matter how small it is, make a change to your workout regimen. If you don't have one, start one. Take a walk every night. Go to the gym, lift some weights. Do it safely, get someone to show you how. But if you do these things incrementally again, you can change the way you view yourself both internally and externally. And that is going to do wonders for your self-confidence. The fourth thing that I would suggest to you to improve your self-confidence is to do things for others. Go out and do something for someone else. And when you go out and do that thing, whatever it is, do it with absolutely zero expectation of a return. I think that is the key with this particular exercise as far as building self-confidence. If you go out and do something with an expectation of a return, you're going to put undue pressure on yourself or the situation to give you something that's going to make you feel better about you. And then if it doesn't happen the way you think it should, then you don't get that validation. So I'm asking you to go out and do something for someone. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't. But I'm asking you to go out and do something for someone else with absolutely no expectation of a return. I'm asking you to go do something for someone where you don't even think or don't even know if you're going to get a thank you, a reply back. If you bought something for somebody, maybe you don't even know if you're going to get paid back, and I would tell you to expect not to. Make this exercise purely about being in the moment and doing something for someone else because you have the ability to do it, not because they have the ability to affirm you or make you feel better about you. If you can go out and give in some way, shape, or form, and you can do it without having to have that instant validation, that thank you, that repayment of some kind, it frees you to simply be in the moment. And when you are in that moment and you see the joy that you've brought to someone, and you see the change that you're able to make in somebody's life, or the situation that you can improve, it does amazing things for your confidence. And it makes you want to do more. And what's so interesting about this exercise is that if you can do this and do this with complete anonymity, so that the person that received your gift or your contribution doesn't even know it was you, It is so much more satisfying, and it is much more confidence building because you get the most pure reaction. You get the truest response to what you've been able to do. And there's nothing better in my mind than being able to help someone else simply because you have the ability to. Not because they can repay you, not because you're going to get recognition, but nothing else except for the joy of seeing that person's face who has been aided by what you did. And I would suggest to you that if you could do this on a regular basis, you would build a tremendous amount of self-worth, confidence, and self-esteem. I used to listen to a Christian comedian. His name is Brad Stein. In all of his comedy, he would get to some serious parts of his show, and he would say, if you want self-esteem, you don't get that by getting accolades and plaques and attaboys and hand claps. You get that by contributing to others, putting others first, esteeming others before yourself. And I say take that a step further and esteem them and give and do those things. And if you can do it anonymously with no expectation of return, that self-esteem, that self-worth, that self-confidence would grow even more. So I challenge you this week. Find somebody that needs your assistance in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be with money. It could be with prayer. It could be with a gift. It could be that somebody needs help carrying a box into a store. Whatever it is, I challenge you to give beyond yourself this week. And do it with absolutely no expectation of a return. Don't expect a thank you. Don't expect repayment. Just do it. And then continue to do it. And I guarantee you that it will do wonders for your self-worth, your self-esteem, and your self-confidence. The last suggestion that I have for you today might seem overly simplistic, but when you think about the challenges that are in front of you and the things that hold us back, and as it deals with self-confidence, I want you to ask yourself, in whatever situation that you're in, ask yourself honestly, what's the worst that could happen? Seriously ask that question. Having a lack of self-confidence is because we fear failure. We fear non-acceptance. We fear just not being good enough. But in the end, you have to ask yourself, what really is the worst that could happen? Most of the time, the consequences of failure are not as bad as we build them up to be in our mind. In our minds, we often build failure up and we put it together scenarios that are far worse than what actually happens in reality. So take an honest look and really ask yourself that question. If I'm giving a speech and I stutter on a word, what's the worst that's going to happen? Maybe I have to start over. Maybe I have to make a quick joke about the mistake I made. But then you pick up the pieces and you keep going. I can tell you from personal experience that when I've been in situations where I have been deathly afraid to do something, more often than not, the people that you're interacting with, the people that you're afraid to stand in front of, the people that you're afraid to ask that question of, those people are rooting for you. Those people want you to succeed. So ask yourself in that situation, really, what is the worst that could happen? Most of the time, I would tell you that it's not going to be as bad as you think. And when that situation does happen that you were afraid of, because it's going to, if you put yourself out there, if you follow the steps that we've already talked about, you're going to get into a position where you're not going to win every time. That's reality. But I can almost guarantee you that when that situation does finally happen, you're going to look back at it and you're going to say, you know what? It wasn't as bad as I thought. And if you can do that and then learn from that situation, then you haven't failed. You found another better way to move forward. And what's more confidence building than doing it better the next time? Knowing a pitfall and being able to avoid it. We're not always going to get it 100% right. We're human, we're going to make mistakes. But in the end, you have to ask yourself, if this speech isn't perfect, what's the worst that's going to happen? More often than not, the scenario in your mind is far worse than reality. So let's give reality a try. Let's put ourselves out there. And let's build on those small wins, those successes, and build incremental change. I think that's been a theme throughout this entire episode, is incremental change. Use the building blocks of each success to build your self-confidence as you move forward. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please take time to rate it and leave comments. I'd also encourage you to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, my friends, build your self-confidence through incremental change. Push beyond your current limits. Move beyond yourself. Look for opportunities to serve others and be the hero.